So we've had a week of U-turns. It is seriously true what people say, and they call our Prime Minister in the United Kingdom U-turn Johnson. We're going to be talking about the last couple of months and about myself here on episode 5 of series 4 of Around the World Today with me, Terry D.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to, like I said, Series 4, Episode 5. And you're listening to Around the World Today, brought to you by podcasts by Real Terrier Radio, with me, Terry D. And we've had a week of U-turns, well, 2 years of U-turns, haven't we really? 1 minute Boris Johnson says, we have an oven-ready deal. And that is my impression of trying to do Boris Johnson, but it turns out 2 years on, or even 6 months on, from such oven-ready deal, there is no deal. The deal is cracking around them. The UK government want to end the deal that they negotiated. With that, wasn't there a Prime Minister before who said that it can't be done? Wasn't there a government less than 2 years ago that said that it can't be done? Wasn't there a government 2 years ago that said it risks the peace in Northern Ireland? Well, yes, there was. The government of Theresa May, and I can't believe I'm advocating for Theresa May. We've also had that they weren't going, in the election, they said they weren't going to touch the foreign aid budget. Lo and behold, they've touched the foreign aid budget, they've cut it. U-turn. Last weekend, in 2 hours and 45 minutes, 1 minute the Prime Minister wasn't going to self-isolate. Then the UK public got involved, and the Prime Minister is now self-isolating as per the rules. Maybe the Prime Minister himself should possibly have known his own advice, trying to put himself in a category above everyone else when everyone else, such as people who work in distribution centres, delivering your food to the supermarkets, my friends. You know, these people have to self-isolate. How about the bus drivers? Where I live, the bus company is cancelling buses left, right and centre because of this ping gate that's been going on in the United Kingdom. Isn't this funny? No wonder why mental health is going through the roof. Because no one knows where they're meant to put themselves. Because we've got U-turn Johnson and his government making U-turns at every corner. Now, I don't know about you, but when you're out driving or out in a car, it's very rarely done that you make a U-turn unless you're going down the wrong direction. Even I know that, and I don't drive. But my friends, we've got France fiasco to pandemic U-turn, Boris Johnson's week of chaos. That's what we've had this week. We have had chaos in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. But it's not only this week. And every time Boris Johnson tries to go down the populist route and talking what his base want, a bit like Donald Trump did here. How did that work for Donald Trump? Shall we ask the American people? Because on January 6th, the Senate and the Congress went with the election results. And they were not intimidated by mindless Neanderthals who were anti-democratic and believed the lies. Now today, there's a reason why I mentioned 2 years. Because the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, or Alexander the Faithful Boris Johnson, has been in power. And Alexander, what he doesn't want you to know is that basically his power is now slipping. Labour MP Dawn Butler was asked to leave the Commons yesterday, suspended from that day's sitting, because she called out the Prime Minister's lies. Well, the Prime Minister for the last month, if you've been keeping up in the news, when we've been away for a couple of months, you would have seen that the Prime Minister has been saying Freedom Day. Okay, that's great, Freedom Day. But surely that's only because the weather is like it is right now that we can have a Freedom Day. What happens when the hospitals are becoming overwhelmed? We're told about vaccines. According to the Prime Minister, the link is broken. This is what he's been lying about. But we both know, my friends, that if you have a vaccine, doesn't mean you're not going to get COVID-19. It doesn't mean that you're not going to pass it on. And it definitely doesn't mean that the link is broken. It just means that you will get COVID less than if you didn't have the vaccine. I've had both of my vaccines, and I'm thankful for it. But the problem we've got is there are people out there spouting so much bad information. It's like, again, when people are complaining about the stupid idiot riding his car, who you probably just heard on my street. But anyway, but it's also about anti-masks. Masks reduce the risk by 75%. And there's a reason for all of this hysteria. And there really is. Because the world these days doesn't seem to be able to understand opinion from news. And I've been talking about this with a few friends and family members. And one of the problems you've got is that in Australia, in the UK, in America, all over the world, you have organisations that are branding themselves as news organisations, but the predominance of their programming is opinion. The people who watch these shows think it's news. They don't understand the difference between opinion and news. There is a big difference between them, as you can understand. Opinion is like this podcast. I am giving you my opinion on the news that is going on. If you want to go and check out the news, go to www.bbc.com, go to skynews.com, go to one of the main media organisations where you will find the news. However, when you've got people like Nigel Farage, who have their opinion shows on GB News, or, others, the problem you've got is that the people who watch these shows don't understand the difference from opinion and news. Now, my friends, I blame the lack of education. I blame underfunding of education. I blame the lack of being able to teach people the difference between an actual news story and something that is opinion or fake news. This week we've also had Dominic Cummings you remember Dominic Cummings. There's a few episodes about him in the last series. He come out against the Prime Minister. A few weeks ago, he was in Parliament for 7 hours. This week, he gives an interview, his first interview, with Laura Kongsberg of the BBC. Boris Johnson, what I find quite funny, Mr. British himself. And we're talking about the Union in next week's episode, so stay tuned. But Mr. British himself wanted to go and see the Queen. Wanted to go and see a 93-year-old Queen. Fact is, most of his staff were self-isolating for COVID-19. And this was in 2020, in March 2020, the day before we locked down. Isn't it funny that the rats are leaving the sinking ship? I read a story this morning saying that basically the Conservative Party isn't the Conservative Party of the past. What's quite funny today was to be a Home Secretary, yesterday to be called out by the police unions, today to be called out by the police chiefs. How, as Home Secretary, can you guarantee the safety of the country? And we all know, my friends, that you can guarantee the safety of the country because these police officers are professionals, but how can you guarantee the safety that they're going to listen to you as Home Secretary when they don't respect you? They want you gone. That's what they've said. She is incompetent. Boris Johnson, this government, is incompetent. Matt Hancock was having an affair when people couldn't go and see their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their aunties, their uncles, even their mums, their dads. Matt Hancock was seeing his wife at home and his girlfriend in the office, at a government office. Today it comes out that Matt Hancock's emails aren't going to be checked, but they should be. The fact of the matter is, there's CCTV cameras in there, and to get into his office as a minister, and the only person who can give access those cameras is the Prime Minister. People have seemed to have forgot that. Boris Johnson and his fans seem to be sycophantic against Boris Johnson, so Boris Johnson can't do anything wrong, let alone that, he managed to single-handedly help kill a couple of million people because he was divvying over lockdown. He had to apologise in Parliament on Wednesday. Then he attended virtually because he said comments about letting over-80s die. I found out that my grandmother would have been 88 if she was still alive. She died 27 years ago. But if she was still alive, Boris Johnson would have let her die. I'm sorry, but that's wrong. And yes, this has been a rant about Boris Johnson. And I'm really sorry if that's not what you want. But what more do you want from us? We're all to blame for Boris Johnson being able to come into power, for society not providing a better education for our children. This has been going on for way too long. And hopefully, and I mean hopefully, someone changes this. Boris Johnson, when he came to power, said, well, it's all change. It's just more of the same, isn't it? To me, this is like watching an episode of Yes, Prime Minister. Let me know your opinions. And thank you for tuning in to this little 15-minute show. I will see you soon. And I hope you have a good day, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Making the world a smaller place with the internet, this is Real Terrio Radio.